Hi, and welcome back to the second hour of this 9/11 edition of Focal Point on AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Your host, you're listening to Focal Point, the home of muscular Christianity on conservative talk radio, where we tell what we believe to be the unvarnished truth. Taking calls on where you were when you found out about 9/11, your reactions to 9/11, how it's changed your worldview since then. Let's start off with a couple of phone calls. Let's go to Leah in Plano, Texas. Number to call, by the way, if you want to join this conversation, share your 9/11 recollections, memories, how it's affected you, how it's changed your worldview. Let's go to Leah in Plano, Texas. Leah, welcome.
Thank you. And I wanted to tell you that I'm so glad to hear you talking about how we're being so politically correct that it's going to be our demise if we don't wake up, I'm afraid. And I'm so glad you have given that history, which we need to know, which is really very interesting that it started on 9/11 and has continued to be that as a target date. And that was the theme that Rafael Cruz had in his message to us, Ted Cruz's father, when I heard him speak last week at a meeting that where he was. And he was talking about that, how we need to stop being politically correct and realize who our enemy is and start doing what we need to do. And you're so right that they've started it, but we need to not just be sitting ducks. We need to be smart and combat what they're trying to do. And their mosques are places of subversion where they meet to plan that against us. And people are not awake. They're denying that Muslims are our enemy. And of course, Obama is at the head of that when he and his Justice Department, headed by Eric Holder, of course, refused to label the Fort Hood shooting as a terrorist act and labeled it instead as an act of workplace violence. It was very, very obviously a terrorist attack, and which illustrates what you were saying earlier about how they are obligated to fight against us, so they should not be in our military. But as to where I was on 9/11, I was in my last year of teaching, and I retired after that. And I just come into the building with some students, and heard that what had just happened, and we were able to, some of the teachers gather around the TV in the principal's office when we dispersed took our students to the place where we deposited them for a while, and found out what was going on. It was a very shocking thing, and I'll never forget it.
All right, Leah, thank you for the call. I appreciate that. You know, and again, we don't hate anybody. We don't hate Muslims. We want to see them come out of darkness into light. We love them. We care about their eternal souls. And the problem is that we just don't know the difference between, we don't have any kind of jihad detector. You know, we had a insurance adjuster out to our house today because we had some flooding, so we're going to have to get get that fixed, get that repaired, and we need to find out where water had leaked. We had an upstairs commode that was leaking water, and we had to figure out where that water went, and he had a little water detector. So he could put the two prongs on this water detector, and if there was water underneath those tiles or those floorboards, it would beep. It would go off, and it would tell you whether you had water under that floorboard, and those boards and that tile was going to have to be pulled up, and you were going to have to dry that out and do some repairs. Well, we don't have a jihad detector like that. We don't have any kind of a detector that we can ask a Muslim to squeeze between his thumb and forefinger, you know, because he had to show us how it worked. He had Debbie and I just kind of squeeze the two prongs. And when we squeeze it between our thumb and forefinger, it went off. Why? Because there's water under our skins. There's water in our bodies, and so it beeped and it went off. And we don't have anything like that. We don't have a jihad detector that we can give to a Muslim and say, would you please squeeze this between your thumb and forefinger so we can tell if you're one of the tiny percentage of Muslims that we have to worry about. We don't have anything like that. And so without that, then it seems to me to have kind of unrestricted Islamic immigration, which is what we have now, it's foolish. We're gambling every time because we don't know if that Muslim who's coming across our southern border or coming into our country legally, if that's one of the ones that is going to bomb the Boston the Boston Marathon. We just don't know. And therefore, I think in the interest of national security and rationality and common sense, we need to be very careful with all of them. I remember I had a guest on my program back when Hassan shot up Fort Hood, and I was recommending at that time that we not have Muslims in the military. And I asked him about that. He's a commentator. You'd recognize his face. You'd recognize his name. He's frequently on Fox News. Just saw him just a couple of days ago on Fox News as a kind of a military commentator and specialist. And I asked him, do you think we ought to suspend Muslim service in the military? And he says, no, I think we ought to let them serve. And I said, well, what should we do? Well, we have to keep an eye on them. And I thought, this made no sense to me. I mean, this is a smart guy, very experienced. He's very aware of the danger that Islam represents around the world. And he said, no, we ought to let them keep serving in the military. We just got to keep an eye on them. We got to watch them all like a hawk. And I'm thinking, that doesn't make any sense to me. Where we choose to bring people into our military that we know we're going to have to spy on. We're going to have to monitor them. We're going to have to watch them. Wait a minute. These are the soldiers that we are trusting to look out for us, to protect us. And now we've got to monitor them in that way. They just didn't make any rational sense to me. Taking calls on 9/11, where you were, your reactions. Let's go to, the number is 888-589-8840. Let's go to Dana in Marion, Alabama. Dana, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind? Dana, are you with me? Okay, I'm not picking up Dana. Is that?
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, there we go. All right. Is it Dana or Dana?
Dana.
Dana. All right, Dana, go right ahead. What's on your mind?
Hey, good to talk to you. Hey, just going back to when I saw those towers fall, I was reminded of my high school physics class where Isaac Newton proved that any solid object that falls in free fall falls at a certain rate, about 108 feet per second. You know, if you'd have dropped a bowling ball off that 110th floor, it'd hit the ground in about 9.5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
If nothing was in the way. And we all saw the tops of those buildings were on the ground in about 9.5 seconds, which means when the 110th floor started falling, the 109th floor was already gone. You see, if Isaac Newton would have seen these towers fall, he would have known that airplanes did not bring them down.
Okay, you lost me there, Dana. Isaac Newton would know that those planes did not bring those towers down? I thought you just said we could measure the time from the time it took for the debris to fall to the ground. You lost me there. You got 15 seconds. Convince me.
The top floor was on the ground in under 10 seconds, which means that the rest of the building had given away. Look, Loose Change. Google the movie Loose Change. You'll see those little puffs of smoke coming out below the destruction.
All right, Dana. Well, listen, I appreciate your call. And by the way, just a heads up, Wesley, we're not going to take any more calls that have 9/11 conspiracy behind it. And no more of those. No calls from anybody who thinks this was all an inside job, that the government planted explosives, brought the towers down. I think that's foolishness. Don't buy it. We're not going to take calls on that. Back in 2.